Did you know that the IRS doesn't have forever to punish you with additional taxes and penalties? Do you know that the IRS doesn't have forever to collect tax debts and penalties against you? That's right. Time can be your ultimate weapon against our friends at the IRS who sometimes seem like they're seeking our financial destruction and steady humiliation. Hi, I'm Anthony Parent of IRSMedic, and I'm a 20-year tax attorney who's been helping my clients tame the IRS beast. Now, here's the thing. The IRS's bleeding staff is demoralized, drowning in backlogs. All the while, the IRS statute of limitations on both assessments and collections is quietly saving taxpayers time, money, and energy. It's all running in the background. In this video, I'm breaking down how our dear friend, Father Time, can stop the IRS from ruining your life. First up, how long does the IRS have to assess you taxes and penalties? Normally, they have 3 years from the date you file your return to audit you. 3 years, mark it. After that, 98% of the time, you're clear. The audit threat is dead. But the IRS doesn't always play by that clock. Here's where they will pull some of their tricks. If you don't file a return, bad news, they have forever to assess against you. That 3-year rule only kicks in if you actually file. Right now, in 2025, the IRS's automated underreporting unit is so clogged up, they're still chasing 2016 taxes. No rush for them. They have no deadline. They have forever to assess if you don't file. Meanwhile, you'd have just 3 years from when the return was due or 2 years from date of payment to claim a refund. Fair? Well, no, not at all. The government style really isn't about fairness. It's about what they can get away with. So if you are unfiled, the IRS can dig into your ancient history whenever they feel like it. But when they owe you money, in true government fashion, they don't want to be bound by the same rules that you are. Now, even if you file, certain missing forms can leave your return wide open indefinitely. This gets a little technical, so strap in. Foreign income and asset reporting, if you miss filing FATCA Form 8938, the IRS can assess you forever. Same deal with Form 3520, Form 3528, 8865, or 5471, and others. I had a client slammed with a tax debt from the year 2000 and 2017 because the IRS claimed wrongly a missing Form 5471 for overseas shares of stock he never owned. The IRS will stretch the rules, stretch the facts, and rarely be held to account for not understanding their own rules. And the IRS is also in charge of assessing ruinous and potentially illegal FBAR penalties. In that case, the IRS only has 6 years to assess FBAR penalties, whether you file or not. Now, there's fraud. Now, I'm not talking about the government's fraud. I'm talking about when the government claims you committed substantial fraud, as that bumps the audit window to 6 years, which again is very rare, but it happens. Now, criminal fraud, the IRS claims they can go back forever, but in reality, they lose steam chasing old cases. Of course, there are exceptions. Look at Bitcoin Jesus Roger Ver. 10 years after his last return, they're hitting him with criminal charges in 2025, threatening him with life in prison. Why? Well, probably because he's pro-freedom and our government overlords despise that sort of thing. My point is this: the government bends or flat out breaks its own rules when it wants a scalp. That is perhaps your most important lesson today. Sometimes we are a nation of laws, other times not so much. So to recap, usually the assessment statute is 3 years if you file, avoid foreign reporting screw-ups, and don't pull a major fraud, and or not a person the government wants to bring down a peg or two. Now, how long can the IRS collect once they assessed against you? It used to be 3 years, which was sensible since they knew unpaid bills after that were 90% dead anyway. But Congress, in its true congressional wisdom, helped by stretching it out to 10 years, thinking that more time equals more cash. Well, they were wrong, of course. That 10-year collection statute called the CSED, collection statute expiration date, has cost the IRS more than it's collected. Enforced collection barely brings in peanuts. Get this, even the conservative estimates on Medicare fraud. The government has been losing over $100 billion a year there, more than the IRS squeezes from taxpayers who owe back taxes. Why is the government not plugging that massive hole instead of tormenting people who actually might not even owe money in the first place? Why, it's as if our government is staffed by a cabal of Americans' worst enemies. As if. Now, once you're assessed, again, the IRS has 10 years to collect unless something stops the clock. If you move outside the US, that tolls the CSED. That is, it pauses it, though the IRS often forgets to flag you as overseas, letting the clock run out by mistake. Yes, sometimes we can thank the government for not being able to know its own rules. Now, if you file an offer in compromise or appeal or bankruptcy, that pauses the time period from running too. Bottom line, time. Time can be on your side if you play it smart. The IRS isn't invincible. They're sloppy, overstretched, and bound by horrific mismanagement of their scarce resources. And since the February 2025 layoffs and the threats of more layoffs, well, the IRS is even more demoralized. Use that against them. And the best way to fight is to actually know what your collection date is and what your assessment dates are. And you can find those out by requesting our total tax diagnosis service from my team at IRSMedic. Simply go to irsmedic.com/help to get started right now. This is Anthony Parent of IRSMedic signing off. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next tip. Also, I am curious. How long do you think the IRS should be able to collect taxes? I want to know what you think. Leave your answer in the comments below.